you can stay home and talk about sleep, which is what we're going to do. Dawn Whitaker is back with us. She's a child sleep consultant. Welcome back to the show this morning, Dawn.
Thank you.
You know, parents and kids and the relationship with sleep seems to be something that every parent has to struggle with, don't they?
They do, yes, most.
How important is it, do you think, for kids to get enough sleep?
It's very important, yeah. It will affect how they cope in the day and what their personality is like in the day. A child who doesn't get enough sleep will cry a lot more, or just they have very red eyes, they just can't cope in their environment.
Well, do you think this is something that gets overlooked then? Like parents have cranky children, then they don't understand the relationship?
Yeah, I think what it is we live in a 24-hour society now, and I think that sleep is not prioritised how it used to be. So if you think back to the day before electricity, people would go to bed when the sun set and would get up when the sun rised. Whereas now we live in this society where it's go, 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 and people will actually boast about how little sleep they need. But
they don't actually know that for sure, do they? I mean, they're paying a price for not getting enough sleep and they don't know
Absolutely. It makes you more accident prone. You can't, again, like emotionally, like for me, if I don't get enough sleep, I feel really emotional, like I cry
weepy.
for no reason.
I know, me too. You get all weepy, right?
I feel like my head's in a vice almost, like a lot of pressure in my head. You're more susceptible to illness. You know, you need sleep for survival.
So when you go to people and you're talking to parents about sleep, are they often surprised by what you're telling them, that how much sleep their children should get? I
think they're more surprised by I always recommend a really early bedtime, and I think that surprises a lot of parents. They feel that they can't actually do that because the house is so busy in the early evening that they just don't know how they can get their children to bed early. But you have to make it a priority. You have to set a bedtime. Okay, so what you do is that you actually go to people's homes. I do, yes.
And so tell me about that process. How does that work?
So, well, first of all, they'll contact me, and then I would ask them to keep a log for 3 days so I can have a look at the children's feeding and eating pattern, and then I would go and see the parents and we'd talk about what the issues are, talk about how they feel about making changes, what they are willing and not willing to do, and then I would put a plan together and I'd help them implement it and support them through the transition.
Are some people just not willing to make the changes that you suggest for them sometimes?
Most people are pretty on board, to be honest.
Yeah, because they're so desperate at that point, right?
Absolutely, yeah. It's really emotional. Like, a lot of mums cry when you go and see them because they're just so drained and they just don't know what to do, and they've tried everything and they've read this book and they just need someone to talk to and ask questions.
What is the biggest mistake, do you think, the parents are making?
I think a lot of parents with babies just tend to keep the babies up too late. A lot of babies get very fussy in the late afternoon, and that's an indication that really they should be put to bed, but instead we get used to kind of just walking around with them and rocking them, and just because I think parents really aren't sure what to do, where you can give them a bedtime, that's fine.
Okay, Dawn, you have 2 children.
I do.
1 and 3.
That's right, yeah.
And what time do they go to bed?
My daughter goes between 6:30 and 7, and my son goes between 7:30 and about 7:45, sometimes 7 if he's tired.
And that's the 3-year-old?
Yes.
Wow, a lot of parents would probably just go, what? How do you manage to do that?
So, well, as I said, I make it a priority. So after dinner, we go straight upstairs and have a bath, and then my daughter would go to bed, and then my son will have TV for half an hour, and he'll have his milk, and then I'll tell him it's bedtime, and off he goes.
Really? Because you spend a lot of time training. There's a lot of work involved in getting that to that point.
Yes, yeah. I mean,
it doesn't just happen.
No, yeah. Well, I trained more or less both of them by 3 months, and I also make bedtime positive. Like, it's not a punishment to go to bed. It's healthy to go to bed. It's healthy to get sleep. You've
got lots of advice in this. So you're going to hang around because we're going to talk about this a little bit, but I got to read an email here from Tammy. My 16-month-old daughter usually sleeps until 6 a.m., but with the time change, she now wakes up at 5 a.m., which is way too early. How can I adjust her sleeping patterns to fit the time change? Okay, so she's 16 months. She's 16 months. So she's now getting up at 5. Because of the time change. Yeah, because if you do it before, you can make changes before by doing 15-minute I think a lot of people don't understand how much of a difference the time change is going to be, though, right?
What do you mean?
Like, if you said she should have started before the time fell back.
Yeah, so now she would have to... I'm just trying to think how you can play that out.
Yeah. What would you suggest that she do? So today she should try and keep her baby in bed until the set time if she can, so that everything doesn't get thrown off. That's really hard to answer because I have to really See, look at you. This takes a lot of analysis.
It does. I have to sit down and think about it and write everything down.
Okay, well, you know, why don't you do that? Because what we're going to do is Dawn's going to hang around. We're going to, coming up a little bit later, we're going to talk about separation anxiety and sort of moving from the crib to the bed, which is also a very big deal. She's going to have advice for us. And if you do have more questions, and as you can tell, Dawn's very thoughtful about the questions, you can email us, breakfasttelevision@citytv.com, and she's going to work on them and get some answers for us. So hang around for that. In the meantime, let's find out what's making news. Here's Mark.